Have you ever tried pulling a range of data into another sheet and suddenly you're left with a bunch of ugly zeros at the bottom? Well, Excel has a secret weapon for this. It is called the dot operator with TRIMRANGE. Today, I'll show you how it can clean up your report, simplify your formulas, and even combine multiple tables like magic. So let's get straight into the video. Now we have employee column right here. So we have the different name of the employees in our company, but we intend to keep hiring. That means that we'll have more names to input down here. So let's say, for example, we want to make reference to the employee name in another table, or let's just say in the same table. If we type equals to make reference to this column, and I press enter, so that anytime I type in more employee, let's say I type in Tosin here now, it automatically reflects in the reference. But how about these ugly zeros? They make no sense at all. All right, so let's try to create a new sheet. In the new sheet, I'm just going to reference this employees table and select the employee names column because I intend to input more data. So I press the enter key and expand. You can see we have these ugly zeros everywhere, and it's just very, very annoying. So how can we get rid of it? That is where the dot operator comes in. So the dot operators, if you want to remove all these zeros down here while still referencing when they input more data, all you have to do is come here to your reference, and at the back of this, just put dot. And when we press the enter key, you can see that we no longer have the zeros down here. If we go back to the employees table and input more data, as you can see, we have Tosin as the last one here. So let me go back to the employees table and put in George. Okay, so now let's go back to sheet 1. You can see now that even though we no longer have the zeros down there, it's still making reference to more inputs that we are putting into the column. And you can see where we did not use the dot operator, that it just still has like the zeros, zeros, zeros everywhere. The dot operator is exactly how to make your report look more professional. Let's see how you can use the dot operators when you're trying to combine 2 or more tables together. So let's say we are given this 3 data table. The total sales for quarter 1, the total sales for quarter 2, and the total sales for quarter 3. Now we are trying to put these 3 separate tables into one single table. How can we do that? We can do that using VSTACK. So I'm just going to come here. I'm going to say equals to, then I'll call the VSTACK function. So what is the array 1? Here is my array 1, the value here, comma. What is the array 2? The array 2 is the value for Q2. And what is the array 3? The array 3 is the value for Q3. Okay, so we're going to press the enter key. Now, as you can see, it's very easy to combine the 3 tables. Everything looks perfect and very good. But what if we were told that this is not the entire data set we have, and for Q1, we are still going to have more data entry, and for Q2, we might have more data entry, for Q3, we might have more data entry. What happens in that case? So let's say we want to use VSTACK again for this second example that I'm talking about. So I'll do VSTACK. For Q1 now, let's say we want to leave extra space at the bottom for extra data that might be coming in there. Then I'll do comma. For Q2, I want to do the same. For Q3, I want to do the same. So if you press the enter key now, you can see that for the extra spaces that we currently do not have value, it's just giving us 0, which is like very, very, very annoying. So how do we fix that? We fix that by using the dot operator. All you have to do now to remove the zeros and still be able to update data is just to add the dot operator. So now this is our current value. VSTACK is just like combining vertical arrays, right? So we have the first range is A3 to B19. That's what we did. So at the end of the range, because we are having the zeros at the end of this range, so I'm going to add dots to this B19. That's where it is ending. So just add a dot there. And for the second one, F19, that's where it's ending. I'm just going to add a dot. Same for the J19, which is this. This is where it is ending. So I'm going to add dots before the J19. If I press enter key now, just keep an eye on this. Can you see now that we no longer have the zeros? Now we have Q1 value to like 24314, and Q2 ends at 3946, and then Q3. Now the amazing part of this is if we put in another value down here, let's say Q1, can you see it's already indicated it? So let me put in a value, let me say 5600. Can you see that it automatically updates? And that is the beautiful thing about the dot operator. You don't need to start cleaning again because it already did that for you. Let's talk about cases where you don't even have your zeros down. How about you have your zeros up? An example of that would be, let me say equals to here, and reference these names together with this value at the top and bottom. You can see now that we have 0 at the top. That means we can still input an employee name at the top here before Charles, and also input more employee names down. So what do we do in this case? To remove the 1 at the top, we're going to add full stop to the end of A3. That's where it's starting. So if I press enter key, can you see that it removes the 0 at the top? And to remove the 1 at the bottom, we are adding full stop behind the A14. So now if we press the enter key, you can see now that everything is sorted, both at the top and at the bottom is sorted. So now let me try to input a name here. Let's just say Henry. Can you see now that Henry is now displayed at the top because we referenced it? You see, dot operator is just like a simple way or like a shortcut around it. There's actually a function that we use instead of dot operator, but dot operator makes it very, very easy to use. The function is TRIMRANGE. It equals to, then we write a function which is TRIMRANGE. And this function now, we're just going to select, let's select from Charles to A15, like I said, and press the enter key. Can you see now that we don't even have to use the dot function? So the dot function is just like the shortcut to use instead of the trim range. The trim range works for both the leading and the trailing spaces. All right, so let's run through our last example briefly, and I'm also going to show you how you can use this in data validation. So let's say we have this financial report for the sales we made. We have product categories, the revenue cost, and we're trying to calculate the profit. You already know that profit would be this equals to this minus this. So if you press the enter key, it's going to give us the value, and if we double click, it's going to calculate for the remaining ones, right? Okay, but what if we input more values? Is it going to automatically generate that? So let me just say okay, let me just type something. Violin, let me say electronics. Okay, so let me say the cost is about 6,700 and this is about 500. You can see now that it does not automatically generate the profits for me. I don't like that. You will need to start calculating new products manually, which is stressful and it doesn't show that you're a professional. So here is a better way to do it. So instead of saying C2 minus D2 to get the profit, I'm going to select the range from C2 to, let's say I'm thinking of inputting like 20 values there. So let's say from like C2 to C20 minus, I'm going to pick the range for the cost to, let's say D2 to D20 as well. And I'm going to press the enter key. Now you see that it gave me the subtraction for these ones. And for this place where I don't have value, it's just giving me the ugly zeros that we used to have. And I'm sure you already know how to fix that. The best way to fix that is to use the dot operator or you use the trim range. Okay, so here I'm just going to put the dot operator here at the end of the C20, that's where the first one ended. And I'm also going to add it here at the end of the D20, that's where the cost is ending. So let's just press the enter key and see what happens. Can you see now that we no longer have the long zeros at the bottom? And let's say we input another product. Let's just say we input pressing iron or something, and that's under electronics. And now I'm going to have 5,008 and let's say 200. Can you see now that our profit is automatically calculated? So anytime we keep inputting value here till like this 20 is gonna keep calculating the profit for us, and that saves you time and energy. Okay, so for the data validation, all you have to do is, let's say we want to know the unique categories of unique products that we have and also reference the products that we are going to input later on. So I can just click here, come to the data tab and click on data validation. Right here, I'm going to make it a list, and then I'm going to reference the cell where I want to use, right? So let's say I want to use from A2 to A20, okay? And you know, because this is like the latest version, I'm using the web version of Excel. It's smarter, so it's gonna automatically ignore blank. But if you're using the older version of Excel, that means that you're still gonna have the blank, and then you can apply the dot operator to it. So I'm gonna click apply, and you can see here it didn't give me the blank, but if you're making use of the older version, you definitely have the blank. Some of these functions you might not be able to use it if you have the older version of Excel, so I'd advise that you use the web version. So that's the dot operator in action. You get cleaner reports, dynamic updates, and no ugly zeros. Now let me ask you this. If you're a fan of traditional Excel table and you don't really like this dot operator, you feel it's too complex for you, type trim table in the comment section. And if you prefer trim range with the dot operator, comment team trim. And if you're someone like me that loves to switch between both, comment team both in the comment section. I'm really curious which camp you belong to. And make sure to hit the subscribe button because in the next video, I'm going to show you more exciting tutorials.